Hi, I'm Sophia, and this is the last part of the Docker MTA series, Modernizing Java Apps for IT Pros. In part 4, I shared the Movieplex 7 images by pushing them to Docker Hub, which is a public registry. I also use Docker Hub to automate the process of building images when code changes are pushed into the repository. The app is ready to provision a swarm using Docker Community Edition and deployed in a cloud such as AWS or Azure, which is fine for non-production environments. However, for production, you'll want support for your containers, an integrated management solution, and secure software controls. You'll get that with Docker Enterprise Edition, which you can run in your own data center or in the cloud. I'll cover Docker EE Advanced in this video. I'll deploy and manage my application using the Universal Control Plane and show you how security, administration, and monitoring look in a production Docker environment. Docker EE gives you fine control over how to set up things. You can provision a cluster in the cloud with a template from Docker, or you can prepare a cluster manually. It's very simple to deploy Docker EE, and the Advanced Edition comes with a comprehensive management suite, Docker Trusted Registry, which can be used as a private registry for your images, and Universal Control Plane, which is the container management platform. This is the Universal Control Plane, or UCP. It's a single pane of glass for monitoring your entire environment. The dashboard is an overview of the containers which are running and any which have any errors or unknown state. It also shows basic infrastructure metrics and the aggregate CPU and memory usage for the manager nodes and worker nodes. From there are shortcuts showing you how to do key tasks, like adding a node to a cluster. That's as simple as installing Docker on a machine in the UCP network and running this command. From the dashboard, you can also download a client bundle, which you can use with your local Docker command line to securely connect to UCP. UCP has a rich access control model, which applies across the UI and Docker command line. Access control will give you huge flexibility on how you use the UCP in production. I've signed into UCP, which means I'm also signed into DTR. There's a single sign-on between the two. I'm using a local account, and you can also configure authentication with an LDAP provider. Authorization is separate from authentication, and that's completely controlled within the UCP. You can create organizations and teams to group users, and these are the subjects for access control. Users can be in multiple teams, and their permissions are the superset of all the team permissions. The targets for access control are collections, which are groups of Docker resources. You can put any resource into a collection like nodes, services, containers, or networks. The final piece of access control is the grant, which is how you assign permissions so that subjects can use the resources in a collection. The flexible role-based access control in UCP lets you segregate your cluster in whatever way works for your organization. As a simple example, this worker node in the Unit 1 collection could represent a business unit. Only members of the admin team have scheduler access to the Unit 1 collection, which means that you have to be a user in the admin team to run containers on that worker node. Access control lets you segregate a large cluster to give dedicated compute resources to different areas of the business, as well as defining fine-grained permissions within teams. You can also use the security in UCP to enforce policies over the software that the cluster will run using Content Trust. Docker Content Trust is a mechanism for digitally signing images to establish provenance. When you push an image to DTR, you can sign it with the certificate you get from UCP in your client bundle. Here, I can see that one version of my app image is signed, but the other versions are not. DTR records that an image has been signed, and it also records all the users who are signatories for the image, which you can use as a proof of sign-off for a release. In the admin settings of UCP under Docker Content Trust, you can require that the cluster will run only images that are signed. You can even specify a list of teams that need to be signatories. I can try to create a service from my latest application image, and UCP refuses to run it because the image isn't signed. There's no way around that. Even administrators can't run unsigned images. This is a security policy which is easy to audit and is enforced by the platform. To deploy my app now, I need to use signed images, so I'll need to use new versions in my compose file. You can integrate Docker containers with other services in your network. I'm running UCP on AWS, and now I can deploy my Dockerized web app to the cloud. In UCP, I'll create a stack and upload my compose file. The images are all signed, so UCP will run them and deploy my app. And so the last thing to show you now is how monitoring looks in UCP. UCP is a centralized portal, and I'm logged in with administrator rights, so I can see all the resources in the system. In the stacks, there's my own application, and there's UCP and DTR. The Docker EE products all run in containers too. I can see the services with the replication status, and I can look at individual containers. Each container shows the CPU and memory usage and configuration, like a startup command, any volume mounts, and environmental variables. From here, I can also drill into the container logs. I can even run a console session connected to the container. All of this is available from the UI, and it's all subject to access control. So I can set up permissions so testers can view containers and see the logs, but they can't stop or start containers. The management of services and containers is the same, no matter what technology is running inside the container. The DTR registry container is a Go application running on Linux, and the MoviePlex 7 website is a Java EE running on Tomcat EE and Node.js. You can secure, deploy, and manage them in the same way with Docker. UCP provides you infrastructure monitoring of containers and nodes, and you can add your own application monitoring. That's the end of the series. In this video, I've shown you how Docker Enterprise Edition gives you a production-grade containers as a service solution running in your own data center or in the cloud. You can run a Docker EE cluster with high availability for UCP, DTR, and your own apps with 6 nodes, and you can scale that to hundreds of nodes. On your servers, you just install the operating system and Docker and everything else you deploy and manage in containers. UCP is the single pane of glass that gives you a consistent way of managing diverse workloads, and that includes new apps and old apps. The focus of the series has been modernizing traditional Java apps without changing code. You can add portability, security, and efficiency to existing apps without any development effort, and running in Docker is the easiest way to move those apps to the cloud or to modern infrastructure. If you're keen to try this out for yourself, head to the Play with Docker website. There are self-paced labs where you can practice modernizing Java apps in a sandbox web environment before you go on to modernize your own apps. My name's Sophia, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned to the Docker YouTube channel for more great videos about Docker.